Okay, so this is Katura and welcome to SISU Biz. So Matt at Bobcat Bonnie's on with us today. This is our very first podcast. So I'm so excited that you're on here. You and I go way back. We've actually known each other for quite a few years. But
Uh-huh.
so I know where Bobcat Bonnie's the name comes from, but for those of us out there that don't know where the name comes from, tell us a little bit about the name and its origin.
Yeah. So the name, actually, I'm going to make it my background. So this is Bonnie, and this is the actual bobcat that she used to drive around the farm. And so Bonnie is my grandma. And so we got the name, as you can see, Bobcat Bonnie's, which is kind of cool because, like, before we had it, you can tell from the picture, this is what, like the 80s, early 90s for a while now. So yeah, we got this from her, and we kind of got the name and the idea, not necessarily just from her. It sounded good and it has a good story to it, but also like some of the things that she like really stands by. So like a lot of like how we think about like service and items like that, we get from her. So like when you go to her house, for example, it doesn't matter if it's just like one holiday or multiple holidays, one person or pile of food and a huge thing of like donuts and stuff like that. So there's always a lot of like, over the top big portions, kind of like what you would expect from a grandma, where like you come over and you're like, hey, you got a snack, and she busts out like 30 snacks for you.
And I noticed even over here, like there's the actual, I recognize that picture. I didn't realize that that was on,
Yeah,
so that was actually on her Bobcat. That was like on her little,
yeah,
that's so awesome.
yeah.
So,
And that's where they got the name Bobcat Bonnie's.
and she's beautiful. And so is that the inspiration for where all your, because I've told people, and listen, I'm a big fan of the food first and
Yeah,
foremost.
yeah.
So I come there to eat personally. I've been to a bunch of your locations, and the food is amazing every single time I go. I've never had anything that I haven't liked. I have my favorites for sure. Definitely my brunch favorites are so
Yeah,
like your skillets that you do. But what I always tell people is not only is it good, but it's so beautiful.
yeah.
So I have actually a little, I want to share this. Um, so let me share my screen here. So
Hmm.
is this where you get this idea from, like the beautiful food? Did she do these beautiful layouts of, like, this was a salmon dip that you guys did that I just thought was amazing. And so these were a couple of my
Yeah.
favorites from past times that I kind of went and grabbed because I was like, okay, I love their salmon dip, but I thought it was so beautiful that when you guys brought it out, I almost didn't want to like eat it because it was so cool looking. And then that brisket quesadilla. My gosh, loved it. So good.
Yeah.
So is that
Well, I
where, I
think
mean, was she big
our
on
big
presentation?
thing is not really, I don't think, but our big thing is like we want food that like, you want to eat and looks and tantalizing and stuff like that. So that's where we get stuff like this. We more so get like a giant, like a larger theme from her. So in the sense that like, hey, it's a lot of hospitality. It's a lot of, taking care of people and how we treat people and talk to people and stuff like that. So we get a lot of that stuff from her. The other thing we get from her is that she always loves a chocolate dessert, mostly a chocolate cake. So for the most part, we always have like some form of a big chocolate dessert, just what she would want like that.
Right. Nice. Well, you guys do have amazing desserts as well. So let me tell you a little bit. So Sisu for us is kind of a family philosophy. So this is actually, and you've met several members of my family. I think
Yeah.
Haley used to come and scrub the floors there at the Detroit location. She was a scrub tech for us for a long time. So the one on the right there in the dress, the tall one on the end, I think has been in probably your Detroit location more than any others, but I think she did Ferndale as well a few times. Um, But, for us, like SISU and how we came up with SISU Biz, so I always like name origins, is SISU is a Finnish term. My husband's Finnish, and it means strength in the face of adversity. That's kind of the rough way of translating it to English. But it really means like resilience, tenacity, determination. And actually that picture that you see, that SISU Biz with the leaf growing through the stump there, was actually something that the 14-year-old, the other girl in the red dress there, drew for me as, kind of a symbol of what SISU means for us. But literally, like SISU means
That's awesome.
guts. So literally, SISU means like guts or like the interior of an object. But like I said, roughly kind of translated, how they look at it is it's strength in the face of adversity. So the first 8 weeks of my podcast, I'm really focusing really in December and January, because I think it's maybe a good way to say bye to 2020 and hello to 2021, is talking about like roots and, how, where that comes from. So where does, for you, like Gutsy Mindset. So when I was thinking Gutsy Mindset, I'm like, okay, this is going to be my first podcast. And Gutsy Mindset to me was like just screamed Matt, because you just look at things, in my opinion, you like look at things and you're like, okay, here's a wall. I'm going to figure out how to go around it, over it, through it, whatever I got to do. So where does that Gutsy mindset to do things like this, to get your product into like a local grocery to go store? This is by, if I remember correctly, this is by like one of the hospitals, right, in Royal Oak, the to go.
Yeah, so it's by Bobcat, Royal Oak, and what it is it's Meijer's answer to where they can't put like a full Meijer store. So it's called Woodward Corners Market. There's one opening in downtown Detroit called the Jefferson Avenue Market and stuff like that. It's kind of their answer of like, hey, we realize we can't be in every city with a big, huge Meijer store. Can bring like wines and high-end foods and stuff like that to it. So that's kind of their answer to that. So we like kind of make decisions under the guise of there's about 300 people, or pre-pandemic there was 300 people, and they all need to make their bills. And so in order for them to make their bills and to be a place of employment that is exciting and growing for them and gives them opportunity, we have to take on challenges. So hit that with our opening of Partridge Creek this February up at the Partridge Creek Mall. And now it's exhausting, but it's a great challenge. I like being challenged to now figure out all these different rules. In the summer, we immediately added tented areas that we could expand seating. I always see that silly meme where they're like the inside, outside, whatever. It's not necessarily about inside being outside. It's about the distance between tables, and some of that people's perceptions. A big part of coming to a restaurant is feeling safe and feeling secure in what you do, and where you're eating and stuff like that. That's why, a lot of times stuff like having like super clean bathrooms and all that stuff really is important, because people's perception is actually their reality. When they feel like things are neat and clean and organized, they know, hey, this is a place that I can dine at. If they're this neat, clean, and organized, they're probably doing the same. We take challenges that I don't think other people do, and we push the envelope. And sometimes, to my own fault, I can be a little aggressive, but I'm aggressive because we have a greater mindset. It's not to line my pockets. It's really to ensure our survival and to ensure that, the people who are relying on us, especially as we go into holiday season, for money, can make that money. It's really important.
And it's funny because you like the domes are one of the things that I thought, I always thought like innovating in the midst of adversity is got to be so scary, because you've got adversity and you're kind of dealing with the adversity of that. But to go ahead and like be innovative during that time, to me is just, like I said, to me, it just spoke to me of this like gutsy mindset. And Sisukunda, which is actually where like Sisu comes from, is they kind of use that as the origins of where strong emotions in the human body come from. And it sounds like that's kind of where this comes from you, is just like the strong emotion that you have, like you feel like you almost have a duty, it seems like, to do this. Is that an accurate way of kind of describing it? Do you feel like you
Yeah,
almost have a duty to do it?
oh, for sure. I think, you see two types of people when crazy situations evolve. You see the people who throw up their hands and say, "Ah, I just can't make it happen. I can't figure it out." And you see the type of people who are like, "Okay, here's the problem. Let's find a solution." And as an owner and as somebody who is obligated to say, "Hey guys, we gave it a try, nothing we can do." It's like, no, there is something you can do. There's always an option. There's always a way to pivot. It just takes time, energy, and sometimes capital to make that happen.
Yeah.
And it's a roll of the dice. It's worked out for us. We're lucky in the sense that instead of saving all the money, we put money into igloos and into tents and into heaters and permits and expanding liquor licenses, as opposed to, just sitting on that cash and out and get us moving along. That's not going to happen. And we're seeing that right now. It's either, you make it happen and you get results, or you don't and you don't get results,
Yeah.
and there is a responsibility as a business owner to your people to keep things moving. I remember an article came out in Cranes when all this shut down, and somebody who has more resources and more money than I'll ever be able to dream of, and a whole restaurant, a crew review saying, "Yeah, we just weren't designed to do carryouts and to go, so we just laid everybody off and closed up shop." And I'm thinking, how are you not designed? I mean, you have a whole crew doing marketing and social media, a PR company and all that stuff. How are you not able to pivot with all the resources you have? We have very limited resources, and there's, as you've seen, and as people follow us and see, there's nothing stopping us from going out and serving people and getting those sales. And
Well, and I think one of the things I love, obviously, that I follow you on Facebook, and I love to
Mhm.
see how much of your, I mean, I think you really let people know, probably more than a lot of businesses do. You really let them get to know Matt and like your team and what you guys are doing. You take them when you're building something out, you take us along like that ride with you. And I always look forward to like, what's Matt going to do? What's Matt going to come up with next? I think it's fun because again, like I love the food, but it's so much more to feel like I'm actually a part of it, and to be like, okay, like when we first started working together and we partnered, it was at that, what's your background right now at the Bobcats in Detroit. And to see have grown, to include Ferndale. If I'm doing them in order, it's Ferndale, Ypsilanti, and then Partridge Creek, right? So,
Yeah, it's Wyandotte too.
oh, and Wyandotte. How could I forget Wyandotte? It's like in my neighborhood. See, you've got so many now. I can't keep them all straight. Yeah, actually, Wyandotte was after Detroit, and then Ipsy. So,
Yeah.
I think what's kind of cool too is I have one of our TAMs at EnviroMaster was out and was talking to a business that had a dome. And he was like, "How did you guys come up with this? Like, where did this idea come from for you?" And he was just kind of curious. And the guy was like, "Oh, well, I went and ate at Bobcat Bonnie's in Detroit, and they had these cool domes. And when I was trying to
Uh,
come up with an idea, I was like, hey, well, maybe I can do that too." So how rewarding is that? Must be so rewarding to have
sure.
kind of that side benefit, because we're seeing them pop up all over the place. Like, I'm convinced that this was like the Matt
Yeah.
creation, at least here in the mitten. But I see them popping up all over the place now. People are like attaching to this idea. So it's so amazing to me. So what do you see as like just your key to perseverance, but really to also be like an inspiration for others to look outside the box and to keep going? Like where does that perseverance come from? Because it's got to be hard, especially in adversity, to do that.
For sure. I think the biggest thing is so many people along the way, you and your brother, in your company, my landlord at this Corktown location, so many people have come alongside of us to help us build this, that many of times where you can keep it to yourself. Hey, this is how we do it. This is where we order it and all that stuff. But that's just great for you. But so many people have helped us. It feels like an obligation to then share that success and share that information with other people. So I actually have it when people message me about the igloos and stuff. I have a whole text message that I just copy and paste and send to them, giving them tips and tricks and all that stuff, because it's important to share your successes with other success. We became a success because, you know, you and our landlord and this beer company and that chef and all that stuff, you know, really shared with us vital information on hey, this is what we do, this is how we do it. And that helped really hone in and create our concept. So it's important to then pay that forward and to support other people as they're trying to navigate these things. What's successful for us can be successful for everybody. And you'll notice business rise together, you know, we build something stronger, and you'll notice areas where they stick as individuals, you know, and really don't support and help and build each other up because they're nervous about the competition of it. It's not a competition. If I have strong retail and restaurant partners around me, it strengthens my restaurant as well.
It's about raising all boats, right? You raise the lever
Exactly.
of the water, you raise all boats. Well, me, I for one, like I think I've got my got Sisu button. I think you've got Sisu. I mean, you might be Finnish. I have no idea. So many of us are such a melting pot of things, but I really think that as far as the Sisu tenacity and perseverance and like this, I love this is just like breaking through walls. That to me is just what you're all about. And is there, okay, so tell everybody just to make sure, I know we mentioned some of the locations, but where can they find your amazing food products, locations? Where can they go?
So I always tell me to get messaging out to people, especially on the fly and stuff like that. You know, it's really hard to go back and redo or edit or change a website. So follow us on social media. Depending on where you live, there's a different, each store has their own social media. So there's Bobcat Bonnie's in Corktown if you're Detroit. Downriver, it's Bobcat Bonnie's Wine Dot. Ferndale and Royal Oak and Berkeley, you can find us at Bobcat Bonnie's Ferndale. Ypsi in the Ann Arbor area, it's Bobcat Bonnie's Ypsi. And follow us on social media. We always give daily updates, specials, information, all that stuff. Social media is a great way for people to follow us. For
And
sure.
they get to see all your awesome pictures and videos and it's fun. You get to watch Matt do Matt's thing and all the team that he surrounds himself with. So everybody that I've ever met at any of your locations has been amazing. So thank you so much for being on. And let me stop the recording here.